We have a treat tonight. We have a special guest. She has many years of experience. Without further ado, give Pastor Michelle a round of applause.
Okay, when he says I have many years, that must mean he thinks I'm old. No. So, well,
It doesn't mean that you're old. It means that you have experience that others don't have. Just like, depending on the situation you're in, you have experience that others don't have. So that's, yes. What's that for? No joke. No joke. We love you, Pastor Michelle. We're glad you're here.
Hey, you guys be quiet, sit down, stop talking. Right now. Right now. The two of you. Do I need to come over and address you? Maybe? Yeah, just sit down. Yes. For those of you guys who don't know who I am Michelle. I'm the pastor of discipleship here at Maranatha, and I have the privilege of being with Pastor Ben every day. For those of you that don't know, are you going to interrupt me too? Oh my God. Yeah, okay. What we're here experiencing is conflict resolution, healthy conflict and not healthy conflict. Me yelling at them, see, I would yell at some of you guys I know, and I might yell at you. That would be an unhealthy way to resolve conflicts. So, and Catherine happens to be my daughter, so she's heard me yell at her many a time. And Renee is just somebody I get to work with. She is my friend. So we're going to open up in prayer, because I need it. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. Lord, I thank you for each and every person that is here. Lord, I thank you for your Holy Spirit. I thank you that your word says that when we open up our mouths, you will fill it. So Father, I have prepared what I've prepared, but I ask that you, when I open my mouth, your words will come out, Lord. Father, you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. You are the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the creator of heaven and earth, and there's not one thing that's too difficult for you. In your precious Son's name we pray. Amen. Okay. I always have to start with prayer. I mean, I speak before people, but I still get nervous. And I decided when I was walking up here today that you guys, I was going to treat you all like alligators. That you are more afraid of me than I am afraid of you. So there you go. So we're here to talk about healthy conflict, healthy resolutions. So how many of you guys in this room have a sibling?
Oh, I have one. I don't know.
Okay. How many of you guys have a friend?
Too many. Zach,
How many of you guys have a parent?
they died.
So all of you have conflict in your life. It just is a part of conflict. Hang on. So conflict is neither good nor bad. It just is. It has no right or wrong. It just is. It's how we resolve it. So everybody in this room has had conflict at some point in time. Webster's 1828, which is one of my favorite dictionaries, it's the original 1828 that Webster wrote. He defines conflict as large as a fighting or combat as between men and applicable to individuals or to armies. We have a huge conflict happening over in the Middle East. We have a huge conflict happening between Russia and the Ukraine. Or it can be as small as struggling with difficulties, a striving to oppose or overcome, a state of disagreement or disharmony between persons or ideas, a clash, to be different, opposed, or contradictory, or to fail to be in agreement. So you and you can have a conflict like every day. Getting on the bus, you want to sit somewhere, getting in the car. I mean, how many have ever called out, what is it?
Shotgun.
Shotgun.
Oh, me.
Yeah, me. And somebody you say it at the same time, and lo and behold, you have a conflict. So you either shove your sibling out of the way.
Or your mother.
Some of you I'm sure have done that in the past. No, I called it first. Or you kindly let the other person have it. So conflict, no, never. Conflict is neither good nor bad. It's just what you're going to do with the conflict. So what do you think conflict comes from? Anybody have an idea? Yes?
Sometimes people hate each other.
Sometimes you,
It's blood boil.
yep, sometimes you hate each other. Why do we usually not like somebody? What is, because we may not like you, but why would we not like you? Yes?
They might be mean.
They might be mean, hurt your feelings? Hurt your feelings?
Yeah.
Yep. What were you going to say? The way they behave towards you? Anybody else? You disagree with their characteristics? Anybody over here? Yep. They disagree with your opinions? Anybody else have an idea of why we might have conflict? What if I want to go to Chipotle and my husband wants to go to somewhere different? But we can now have a conflict. And if you think that doesn't happen, you would be wrong. What if I think the toilet paper is supposed to go one way and he thinks the toilet paper is supposed to go the other way? It causes a conflict. These are serious things that you can have a conflict over. What if you share a room with your sibling and they're a mess and you're not? Or it's their date. I think there's some siblings over here. What if it's your day to do something and somebody else gets to do it instead? We can have a conflict over many, many different things. We can get to a conflict if we feel disrespected by somebody. When people don't listen, I can feel disrespected. I can feel disrespected. You can hurt my feelings by not listening to me. We can have a conflict. I get to decide what I'm going to do with that conflict. We had it happen Friday night at, oh, I know her daughter's in here. At Friday night at Women's Night Out. Mrs. Sandberg was not listening to me, and we had a conflict. You should ask her. I called her out on it in the middle of the conversation. We laughed, we're friends. But we solved it. We solved the conflict by having humor in it. So conflict happens all the time. If you think that you're not going to be in conflict, I was talking to a friend of mine at work. She does the Marcom stuff, and she says, I hate conflict. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get in it with anybody. Nobody likes conflict. When a couple of my friends were asking what I was coming up here to talk about, and I said, healthy conflict, and they laughed. Because people think I like conflict. I do not like conflict. What I like is resolution. I like to have the things that are in my world cared for instead of leaving them to fester and to cause bitterness. You guys sang a song up here about bitterness. When we don't deal with the things that are in our heart, we end up having bitterness. When we don't deal with the conflicts in our lives, we end up with broken relationships, friends that we lose. When we have conflict in relationships, I was talking to Pastor Ben, he was talking about some of his friends that he's had for like 10 years. And they've had conflict. Conflict can make a relationship stronger. It's how you solve it. The other place that we can run into conflict, Pastor Ben talked about it last week, is crossing boundaries. When somebody crosses my emotional boundaries, my physical boundaries, does something in the digital world that crosses a boundary of mine, all of those things can cause, in social situations, we can cause conflict. When I was prepping for this, I was, talking to the Lord, what do you want me to say? And I hadn't done my devotional for that day. It was late at night. So he said, do your devotional. And I thought that was kind of an odd instruction. But I did, and I pulled out my Bible, and I was reading in Mark. So I was reading Mark 3. And it's very funny. I was talking about it last night with Pastor Ben. And Mark 3 is actually all about conflict. Jesus is having all kinds of, Matthew, Mark, because you always have to do that, Matthew, Mark. Jesus was talking about conflict with, he went into the Hang on. I brought my wrong Bible. So Mark 3. Mark 3, Jesus caused a conflict because he healed somebody on the Sabbath. He was in the synagogue and he healed somebody and he told them that their sin was forgiven. And all of the Pharisees were angry with him. Had Jesus done something that was wrong or bad? Nope. But they didn't like what was happening, and so it caused a conflict. And then the next one is that Jesus is, the next one that he causes a conflict in, he is, oh gosh, okay. Why is this not in here? Okay, I'm going to have to do it from memory. And remember, Ben said I'm old, so it's hard. So the other one is he's talking to them, and they gathered grain on the Sabbath. And the Pharisees were angry because he had gathered grain. So there's 3 or 4 stories in Mark 3 where he's causing conflict with the religious rulers. Now, Jesus never sinned, so was he doing something wrong? No. But yet he was causing conflict. Why were the other people unhappy? Because he was going against the norms of the day. So again, conflict is not right or wrong. It's what you're going to do with the conflict. So Jesus just went right on. He didn't engage them at all at that point. He just kept going on. I put him on here. And then the other one was that he was with the tax collector. Remember, he was with Levi, Matthew, also known as Matthew. He was with the tax collector. And they were like, what are you doing with tax? I thought this was very interesting. He says, what are you doing with tax collectors and sinners? So I'm not sure why he didn't include the tax collectors in the sinners. But why are you with tax collectors and sinners? It made them mad. You're only supposed to be with the righteous people. You're not supposed to be with the sinners. So going back, is conflict right or wrong? Is it good or bad? What do we usually think about conflict? Do we think it's good? How many of you guys in here think conflict is good? How many of you guys hate conflict and think conflict is bad? Miss Renee? Most people think conflict is bad. Conflict is neither one. It is the reason behind the conflict or the problem or the issue that's coming up that we need to deal with. So like I said, people think I like conflict. I don't. I like resolutions. I like to have the things that are in my world cared for so that I don't carry them into the next day or the next day or the next year or however long, into the next relationship that you're a part of. So some examples of unhealthy conflict resolution. I gave an example. I yelled at them. What about ghosting?
Ooh, I do that.
We do it all the time. Oh, I don't want to talk to them anymore. I'm just going to ghost them. What's really, really interesting is my husband. This is grown-up world is looking for, was doing some job applications. I'm talking grown-up world, old. The guy ghosted him. It's like, are you kidding? This is a professional world. This is how we're going to solve this. You're not going to just write them and say, no, we're sorry, we're not interested. Ghosting is not the way to solve the problem. Texting is really not the way to solve the problem. Because in texting, nobody gets to see your face, nobody gets to hear your voice, nobody gets to look in your eyes. I can say hi. I can say, hi, how are you? I can say, hi, I don't like you. I can say a whole lot with my eyes and my voice. And texting doesn't give any of that, no matter how many emojis that you can put in there. And I'm an emoji girl, you can ask my kids. So having a conversation with somebody where they can see your eyes and they can hear your voice, they can hear where your heart is a better way to do that. The other thing that's not a good way to do that is taking sides. So you have, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 friends, and there's a conflict. And so a couple of you talk to the other one and say, oh, did you know that so-and-so did such and such to so-and-so? Okay, I know you guys, so I'm going to So Lily was not nice to Courtney. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
I think that we should, the four of you guys, I think we should all like not be nice to Lily anymore because she's just not nice. Amen. Okay, see, that's not a good way to solve the conflict, Lauren.
Lauren, yes it is.
So when you're trying to get your friends, it's usually not that, oh, what's the word? Out in front. We're usually not quite as, hey, I think that we should all ignore her. That's usually not what we do. But we do get our friends on our side. It's not a healthy way to solve the conflict. Just ignoring, fighting. I don't know if people fight much anymore. When I was growing up, we used to get in fights, like physical fights. But I don't know if you guys do that much anymore or not, or you just are ugly to each other on Facebook or social media or Instagram or whatever, Twitter, whatever it is that you guys are on. Twitter. Well, it's not Twitter anymore, is it? Okay, sorry. It's the one that I'm not on. But social media is not how you resolve your conflicts. It's never going to be putting up a post about, and it's usually not in their face. It's usually, you can do it. So we had a conflict and a friend of mine would put up posts like, when you're not nice to somebody, you should apologize.
Amen.
It's like, cryptic, that's the word. Yes, if you're being cryptic about it and it's like around the back side of it, just come up to me and say, I didn't like what you said to me. Please, it hurt my feelings. I'm really sorry. Passive aggressive is a great way to talk about that. That would be what that would be, being a passive aggressive. Well, I'm from California and I know people that do in California too. So last week, Pastor Ben talked about communication. That the core of communication is the art of understanding. And I loved what he said. I listened to what he had to say. I love what he said where he talked about that you have to listen to a point of trying to understand the other person. Communication is the basis of conflict resolution also. If you and I are having a conflict and you're talking, I need to listen, not to answer you, but to try to understand what you're saying. If I'm just listening so that I can have a really good comeback, I'm not trying to understand what you... It's very funny. I think we should separate these two sisters because they just keep looking at each other. Like, yeah, see? You shouldn't do that. But we all do it. We listen because we want to have an answer. We're not debating. Debate is not the same thing as communication. Debating is trying to make somebody understand and come to your point. Communication is trying to have understanding of the person. So communication is at the base of a healthy conflict resolution. So how do we resolve conflict well? I was talking to somebody last night, they said, wait until your feelings subside. When you're really, really, really mad, that's not the time to try to have the conversation with somebody. You don't go to somebody else and tell them all about it. You don't go to the second person and tell them all about it. You don't go to the third person and tell them all about it. It's good to have a trusted person that you can talk to. Because when I am what is called a verbal processor. And so pretty much everything that I am processing in my head comes out my mouth. So until I get to do that, all the emotions are inside my body and I can't have a regular conversation. So I'll call and talk to a trusted friend. And this is what happened. And all of this, because when I want to have a conversation with my husband, I don't want to be yelling at him. I want to be able to have a conversation where I can understand where he's coming from and I can express myself well. Same place if I'm with a girlfriend.
Same.
So waiting until your feelings are subsided is a great thing to do. Having a trusted person, I think any of the leaders that are in here would be a trusted person you could talk to. Your parent is hopefully a trusted person that you can talk to. But having that conversation with somebody to get wisdom of what to say, wisdom to how to deal with it, wisdom to find out if even actually your feelings are accurate. Because our feelings, like, they lie to us. How many times have I said that in my life? They were not nice to me. Well, they really weren't intending to be not nice, they just were. So our feelings can lie to us. They are supposed to be the caboose of our behavior, not the engine of our behavior. So we need to wait until those feelings come down, figure out if they're actually, they're valid, but they might not be true. Our feelings are valid, but we might be basing them on something that is not what is really happening. How many of you guys in here drive? Okay, so you guys drive. Oh, you are so happy. I got my license. But you drive down and somebody cuts you off, and you're like, they did that on purpose to me. How dare they do that to me? They have no idea that you're even in the world. Ram them is not the appropriate way. That would not be the good way to do that. No, I got...
Frontal charge.
Yeah, turn signals really, I mean, we don't always do that, but realizing that sometimes people's behavior have nothing to do with you, it has everything to do with themselves. So we don't need to take offense at everything and cause a conflict. Sometimes we just need to give somebody some space. So waiting until our feelings subside. Our feelings are indicators of what's going on. They can't be the driving force in any decision in life. Good feelings can't be the driving force in your life because you will do all kinds of things to keep your feelings high. Our feelings cannot be the driving force. I want to be happy, and so I make all these decisions because I want to be happy all the time. When we're angry, it's usually a secondary emotion. If we're angry, we're usually angry because we got hurt, because we're embarrassed, because we feel like we made a fool of ourselves. We're angry over all kinds of things, but it's usually your secondary emotion. I did not bring, but there are such things. It's called an emotional wheel. You can Google it. And it'll show you when you have this emotion, all these different things can be behind it. So figuring out what's behind your anger or your is a really great idea, so that you can deal with what's behind that. So trying to deal with your emotions before you try to have a resolution of a conflict. And then really, the next step is having a conversation with somebody in real life, maybe over the phone, not over a text, not over any kind of social media, not over anything like that, unless it's clearly impossible that you can't have a conversation. But face-to-face is always the best. It might be the hardest, but it is always the best. There was a time when we lived in California, and I knew a friend of mine I was married, had kids, she had kids. I knew my friend was really unhappy with me because I would call, she wouldn't talk to me. This was before cell phones, so we were actually on the phone on the wall. All of those kinds of things. And finally, she called me and she said, "Can we meet at the park?" And I said, "Sure." And I knew, because of the conversations I had with the Lord, I knew that there was going to be something that I had done that offended her. And we're old. I mean, well, we weren't old because I'm not old yet, but we were older. And we sat down and she said, "You did this and it hurt my feelings, and you did this and it hurt my feelings, and it made me feel like you didn't care about my kids." I had hurt her feelings. I hadn't intended to. "I'm really sorry. Please forgive me." And it solved the conflict. But if she hadn't done that, our friendship would have been broken. Now, oh gosh, we've been friends, I'm not going to 20-some years, 30 years probably, over 30 years. So way older than you guys all even are. But that happened somewhere in the first 5 or 6 years of our relationship, of our friendship. We wouldn't have been friends if she hadn't had the courage. So one of the things she did was she went to a mutual friend of ours who was wise and said, "This is what's going on, I don't know what to do." Now I had also actually been talking to the person that was in the middle. "She won't talk to me, I don't understand what's going on." So she never let me know that my friend was talking to her, and she never let my friend know that I was talking to her, but she was able to give good, wise counsel. "Michelle, we'll listen, you just need to go talk to her." And she did. And so the conflict was resolved. If she hadn't had the courage to have a conversation with me, some people call it confronting me. I know you guys might not like that word, but have a conversation with me, we wouldn't have been able to get it resolved. When we take the courage, when we have the courage to have those kinds of conversations, and I say this to people all the time, it is actually for the other person's benefit. So I may be doing something, somebody may be doing something that they have no idea that it's bothering you. And unless you tell them, they can't do anything about it. It is really for the other person's benefit to have the courage to say to them, this has happened, you've hurt my feelings. And on the other person's side, it takes what's called humility. I'm really sorry, please forgive me, I didn't mean to do that. To listen without the defenses immediately going up. Because one of the things that we have to realize is that we are not all good and we are not all bad. We are good and we are bad. We do right and we do wrong. And if you think you don't do wrong, you are wrong. And we have to be humble. We have to have humility. We have to be willing to say, we're sorry. I sent out, we have DNA coming. DNA, some of you guys are invited because I know you guys serve. And I sent out the wrong date to hundreds of people. Renee was very kind and she sent me an email. She confronted me and said, Michelle, you have the wrong date on there. I'm like, oh crap. So I sent out a second email. I know people really enjoy getting all these emails. My first words were mea culpa. I'm sorry, I was wrong, I did it. No big deal, I screwed up. The correct date is blah, 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 blah. February 25th instead of October 8th. We were supposed to meet October 8th, but he got sick, so we didn't do it, but I didn't correct the thing. That could have been a big conflict. I can't believe that Renee would be so rude as to say that to me. I was wrong. I can be humble. Pat myself on the back for that. Okay, nobody got that joke? Yeah, pat myself, I was so humble, I'm proud of it. Yeah. God, thank you! Somebody got my joke. So we need to have humility. We need to be able to say we were wrong and ask for forgiveness. And that brings restoration. Now sometimes we have to be willing to compromise. Compromise is not right or wrong, unless it's, now we don't want to compromise over something that is right or wrong. Sometimes we might not want to compromise. We think we're right and they are wrong. So are we going to stand on our right to be right? Or are we going to let that go? Again, that takes humility, it takes listening. It's the communication part, listening to understand why somebody else wants something one way and not another. And it can arise over all kinds of crazy things. I took a bunch of ladies up to retreat one time, and the lady thought I was driving too fast. I did not think I was driving too fast. She did. I slowed down. I'm the one driving the car. Shut up, sit down. I'm going to take you where I'm going. I'm a safe driver. Leave me alone. That would have been rude, unkind, and really disappointing on my part. Slow down for the other lady's sake. It doesn't matter what her reasoning is. She was afraid. It was snowing. It's okay. We live in Minnesota. I was driving a truck. But I cared for her more than I cared for how I wanted to drive. Conflicts happen all the time. They're not bad. We live in a human world where we have people in our world. What are we going to do? Figuring out how to solve a conflict is you guys started when you were 2 years old and I had a toy and you wanted it and you stole it and somebody said you have to share. Beginning of conflict. Never. Everybody, all the time. We have to be willing to be wrong, and we have to be willing to ask for forgiveness. It is one. If you think that you're going to get out of life without it, there isn't. I don't think a person on staff that I haven't gone to at some point in time and apologized for my behavior, because I'm not perfect. Some of my screw-ups have been big, some of them have not. I walk through the halls every once in a while and go, I'm really crabby today. Just so everybody knows, I take responsibility for my own self, for my own behavior. knowing that I'm just tired, I haven't eaten enough, I haven't had enough sleep. I'm crabby. Do I not do that, Renee? I do it. Because it makes everybody realize I'm responsible for my own choices and my own behavior. It also kind of changes my crabby mood. Because we all laugh. There's Michelle. I really want you guys to take away that you are not in any way, shape, going to get out of conflict. If you don't deal with the conflict, you are going to blow up. If you're in a relationship with anybody, if you don't, the conflict is either going to explode or you're going to ignore each other, do the passive aggressive thing, and just walk away. And you could lose somebody who could be a really good friend. It could end up in divorce. It could end up in a boyfriend-girlfriend breakup. Resolving conflict always makes whatever is going on stronger. Now, I have some handouts for you guys. Consequences, you guys are going to get them in your small group. Consequences, forgiveness, what is it and what isn't it? Because forgiveness is an important thing, and just as important is what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness, if somebody else, you cannot resolve a conflict with somebody who doesn't want to resolve it. You can forgive somebody, but if they are going to choose to not change their behavior, you can't necessarily have the same relationship that you had before. So there's a handout. Forgiveness, what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. The other handout there is safe people. Characteristics of people who are safe and characteristics of people who are not safe. It's a great handout to have. You guys might be in high school, junior high, but you have people in your world who you think they're not quite safe. They don't listen to me, they mock me, all kinds of different things like that. Safe people, unsafe people. And then the third one is a handout actually from Pastor Orlean that she did, and it's got some really good information on how to treat people and how people should treat you and why we don't treat people badly. Every single one of you is made in the image of God. Everybody that has been born has been made in the image of God, and we treat them with respect and kindness and care simply because they reflect the image of God. Whether I like them or I don't like them. Whether they're different or they're not different. I still can treat them with kindness, respect, always. And then it has the 10 laws of the boundaries in that handout. Boundaries are an amazing, wonderful thing. We do them all the time. Don't touch me. It's a boundary. Don't touch me. It's a boundary. People talk about their bubbles. Some people have bigger bubbles than other people have. So I could get upset and cause a conflict because his phone went off. I'm not gonna, because it's no big deal. We're all just gonna laugh. So I will be around if you guys have any questions. Just remember, conflict is not good or bad. Conflict just is. Learning how to, he talked last week, I could spend 10 weeks on how to solve conflict, different kind of conflicts, role-playing conflicts, all those kinds of things. Conflict is not bad. Don't be afraid of it. It's not bad. Have humility, have respect, have care for one another. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. Great for all the wonderful nuggets that we're going to actually be able to talk about more in our small groups. And for those of you that want the handouts, because the handouts have so much in it, we'll be able to get each of you that want one, all the handouts, everything that you want. Okay, now to split into small groups.